Peter gives a start. He turns round to run away, and he finds himself facing Jesus, who looks at him with infinite compassion, with such sad, deep sorrow that breaks my heart, as if after that I should see my Jesus vanish forever. Peter sobs, and he goes out staggering as if he were drunk. He runs away behind two servants who go out into the street, and he disappears down the semi-dark street. Jesus is taken back into the hall. In chorus they repeat the captious questions. "In the name of the true God, tell us, are you the Christ?" And when they receive the same reply as the previous one, they sentence him to death, and they give orders to take Jesus to Pilate. Jesus, escorted by all his enemies except Annas and Caiaphas, goes out, passing once again through those courts of the temple, in which so many times he had spoken, helped, and cured people, and through the embattled enclosure he goes into the streets of the town, and more dragged than led, he descends towards the town, which is turning pinkish in the first announcement of dawn. I think that for the only purpose of torturing him longer, they make him take a long, tedious walk around Jerusalem, passing on purpose by the markets, the stablings, the hostels full of people at the Passover, and both the waste vegetables in marketplaces and the excrement of animals in stablings become projectiles for the innocent, whose face shows larger and larger bruises and small bleeding cuts, and is veiled by the various dirty things spread over it. His hair, already weighed down and slightly stretched by blood, sweat, looks duller and hangs uncombed, strewn with bits of straw and dirt, falling over his eyes because they ruffle it to veil his face. The people at the marketplaces, buyers and vendors, leave everything to follow the poor wretch, but not out of love. Grooms and inservants come out into groups, deaf to the calling and orders of their mistresses, who, to tell the truth, like almost all the other women, are, if not all, against the insult, at least indifferent to the tumult, and they withdraw, grumbling at being left alone with so many people to serve. So the howling train grows bigger every moment, and minds and features seem to change nature through a sudden epidemic, as the former become minds of criminals, and the latter masks of ferocity, and faces green with hatred or red with anger. Hands become claws, and mouths take the shape and howling of wolves, and eyes look sinister, red, squinted like those of madmen. Jesus only is always the same, although by now he is covered with dirt spread all over his body, and his features are disfigured by bruises and swellings. At an archivolt that narrows the street like a ring, while everything becomes obstructed and slows down, a cry rends the air. "Jesus!" It is Elias, the shepherd, who tries to make his way by swinging a heavy club. Old, powerful, menacing and strong, he almost succeeds in approaching the master, but the crowd, defeated by the first assault, closes its ranks and separates, drives back, and overwhelms the solitary disciple, who struggles against the whole crowd. "Master!" he shouts, while the vortex of the crowd absorbs and rejects him. "Go! My mother! I bless you!" After the procession passes through the narrow spot, and like water that finds an open space after a dam, it pours uproariously into a wide avenue, built above the hollow between two hills, with wonderful buildings of wealthy people at its ends. I see the temple once again on top of its hill, and I realize that the vicious circle they made the comet go round to expose him to the ridicule of the whole town, and allow everybody to insult him, while the insulters increase at each step, is coming to its end by going back to where it started. A horseman comes out of a building at a gallop. The purple caparison on the white Arab horse, and the magnificence of its appearance, his sword brandished naked and landed with its flat or edge on backs and heads that begin to bleed, make him look like an archangel. When in a caracole, in the prance of the horse that curvets, using its hooves as a weapon to defend itself and its master, and as the best means to make it through the crowd, it makes the rider's purple and gold veil fall from his head, where it was held tight by a gold strip. I recognize Manaen. "Back!" he shouts. "How dare you disturb the Tetrarch's rest? But that is only an excuse to justify his intervention and attempt to reach Jesus. "This man, let me see him. Stand aside, or I will call the guards." The people, because of the hail of blows with the flat of the sword, of the kicks of the horse, and of the threats of the horsemen, open out, and Manaen can reach the group of Jesus and of the temple, of the temple guards who were holding him. "Go away! The tetrarch is more important than you are, you filthy servants! Back! I want to speak to him!" And he is successful by charging the most ruthless jailer with his sword. "Master!" "Thank you, but go away, and may God comfort you." And as best he can with his tied hands, he makes a gesture of blessing. The crowds hiss from afar, and as soon as they see Manaen withdraw, they take vengeance for being driven back by throwing a hail of stones and rubbish on the convict. Along the avenue, which is uphill and already warm in the sunshine, they go towards the Antonia Tower, the mass of which is already visible in the distance. The shrill cry of a woman rends the air. "Oh, my Saviour! My life for his! Oh, eternal!" Jesus turns his head round, and on the high, flowery loggia surrounding a beautiful house, he sees Joanna of Cusa among maids and servants, and with little Mary and Matthias around her, raise her arms towards the sky. But heaven does not listen to prayers today. Jesus raises his arms and makes a gesture of farewell blessing. "Death! Death to the blasphemer, the corrupter, the devil! Death to his friends!" And hisses and stones are slung towards the high terrace. I do not know whether anybody is injured. I hear a very shrill cry, then I see the group break up and disappear. And on, going up, Jerusalem displays her houses in the sunshine, empty, emptied by the hatred that drives the whole town, with its real inhabitants and the temporary ones who have come here for the Passover, against a defenseless man. Some Roman soldiers, a whole maniple, run out from the Antonia with their lances pointed at the mob, who disperse, shouting. In the middle of the street there is Jesus, left with the guards, the chief of the priests, of the scribes, and of the elders of the people. "This man? This sedition? You will answer to Rome for this," says a centurion haughtily. "He is liable to death according to our law." "And since when has the jus gladii et sanguinis been given back to you?" asked once again the senior centurion, a real Roman, with a severe face and a cheek marked by a deep scar. And he speaks with the contempt and disgust with which he would speak to lousy galley slaves. "We are aware that we do not have the right. We are loyal subjects of Rome." "Ha ha ha! Listen to them, Longinus! Loyal subjects! Rotters! I would reward you with the arrows of my archers." "Too noble a death! The backs of mules want nothing but the lash," replies Longinus with ironic coolness. The chief priests, scribes, and elders are foaming with poison, but they attain their object and are silent. They swallow the insult without showing that they have understood it, and bowing to the two officers, they ask that Jesus be led to Pontius Pilate, so that he may judge and condemn with the well-known honest justice of Rome. "Ha ha! Listen to them! We have become wiser than Minerva. Here, give him to us, and march ahead of us. One never knows. You are stinking jackals. It is dangerous to have you behind our backs. Go on." "We cannot." "Why not?" "When one accuses, one must be before the judge with the defendant. That is the rule of Rome." "The house of a heathen is unclean in our eyes, and we are already purified for Passover. Oh, poor little things! They become contaminated by coming in. And the murder of the only Hebrew, who is a man, and not a jackal and a reptile like you, does that not pollute you? All right. Then remain where you are, not one step forward, or you will be pierced by the spears. Let a decury stand around the defendant, the others against this rabble that smells of badly washed billy goat." Jesus enters into the praetorium in the middle of the 10 soldiers who are armed with lances, and form a square of halberds around his person. The 2 centurions go on, while Jesus stops in a large entrance hall, beyond which there is a courtyard that can be seen indistinctly behind a curtain moved by the wind. They disappear behind a door. They come back in with the governor, who is wearing a snow-white toga with a scarlet mantle on top of it. Perhaps that is how they dressed when representing Rome officially. He comes in lazily, with a skeptical smile on his shaven face. He rubs some leaves of lemon-scented verbena and smells them voluptuously. He goes to a sundial and comes back after looking at it. He throws some grains of incense into the brazier placed at the feet of a deity. He has citron water brought to him, and he gargles his throat. He gazes at his hair, completely wavy, in a mirror of highly polished metal. He seems to have forgotten the convict who is awaiting his approval to be killed. He would make even stones fly into a rage. Since the front of the hall is completely open and is raised by 3 high steps with respect to the lobby, which opens onto the street, and is 3 more steps higher than it, the Jews can see everything very well, and they are fretting and fuming. but they dare not rebel, as they fear the lances and javelins. At last, after going round and round the large hall, Pilate goes straight towards Jesus. He looks at him, and asks the 2 centurions, "This one?" "Yes, this man. Let his accusers come." And he goes and sits on the chair placed on the platform. Above his head the insignia of Rome interlaced with the golden eagles and their powerful initials. They cannot come. They become contaminated. Phew, better so. We shall save streams of essences to remove their goatish smell from this place. Make them come nearer, at least down here, and make sure they do not come in, as they do not wish to do so. This man could be a pretext for a sedition. A soldier departs to take order of the Roman procurator. The others draw up in front of the entrance hall at a regular distance, as handsome as 9 statues of heroes. The chief priests, scribes, and elders come forward, and they bow servilely and stop in the little square which is before the praetorium, beyond the 3 steps of the lobby. "Speak up and be quick. You are already at fault for disturbing the peace of the night and having the gates opened with violence, but I will have that verified, and principals and banditaries will answer for disobeying the ordinance." Pilate has gone towards them, remaining in the hall. "We have come to submit our verdict on this man to Rome, whose divine emperor you represent. What charges do you bring against him?" "He seems innocent to me." "If he were not an evildoer, we would not have brought him to you." And in their eagerness to accuse him, they come forward. "Repel this populace. 6 steps beyond the 3 steps in the square. The 2 sentries, to arms!" The soldiers obey promptly. 100 draw up on the top outer steps with their backs to the entrance hall, and 100 in the little square, onto which the main door of Pilate's abode opens. I said main door. I should say huge portal, or triumphal arch, because it is a very wide opening, delimited by a gate, now wide open, which admits into the hall through the long corridor of the lobby, at least 6 meters wide, so that what takes place in the raised hall is clearly visible. Beyond the wide lobby one can see the beastly faces of Jews looking threateningly and diabolically towards the inside. Beyond the armed barrier, that side by side presents 200 sharp-pointed spears to the chicken-hearted killers. I ask you once again, which charge are you bringing against this man? He has committed crimes against the law of our forefathers, and have you come to bother me about that? Take him and judge him according to your laws. We cannot sentence anybody to death. We are not learned. Jewish jurisprudence is a mentally deficient child as compared with the perfect law of Rome. As ignorant people and subjects of Rome, the mistress, we are in need. Since when have you become honey and butter? But you have spoken the truth, O masters of falsehood. You are in need of Rome. Yes, to get rid of this man who causes trouble to you. I see. And Pilate laughs, looking at the clear sky that is framed like a rectangular sheet of dark turquoise among the marble snow-white walls of the hall. Tell me, which crimes has he committed against your laws? We have found out that he was causing disturbances in our country, and was preventing people from paying the tribute to Caesar, saying that he is the Christ, the King of the Jews. Pilate goes back to Jesus, who is in the middle of the hall, left there by the soldiers, tied but without escort. So obvious is his meekness. And he asks him, "Are you the King of the Jews? Are you asking this of your own accord, or through the insinuation of other people? And what do you expect me to care for your kingdom? Am I a Jew? Your country and its leaders have handed you over to me, that I may judge you. What have you done? I know that you are loyal. Speak. Is it true that you aspire at reigning?" "My kingdom does not come from this world. If it were a kingdom of this world, my ministers and my soldiers would have fought to prevent the Jews from arresting me. But my kingdom is not of the earth, and you know that I do not seek power." "That is true, I know. I have been told. But you do not deny that you are a king." "You assert it. I am a king. That is why I came into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Those who are on the side of the truth listen to my voice." "What is the truth? Are you a philosopher? It does not serve when facing death. Socrates died just the same. But it served him in his lifetime to live honestly, and also to die well, and to enter into the other life without being called a traitor of civic virtues." "By Jove!" Pilate looks at him for some moments, full of admiration. Then he resumes his skeptical sarcasm. He makes a gesture of boredom, turns his back on him, and goes towards the Judeans. "I find no fault in him." The crowds riot, seized with the panic fear of losing the prey, and the spectacle of the capital punishment, and they shout, "He is a rebel! a blasphemer. He encourages libertinism. He instigates people to rebel. He refuses respect for Caesar. He feigns that he is a prophet. He practices magic. He's a devil. He stirs up the people, teaching all over in Judea, where he came from Galilee, teaching death to him, death to him. Is he a Galilean? Are you a Galilean? Pilate goes back to Jesus. Do you hear how they accuse you? Prove your innocence. But Jesus is silent. Pilate is pensive, and he decides, let a sentry take him to Herod to be judged. He is Herod's subject. I acknowledge the right of the Tetrarch, and I assent to his verdict in advance. Tell him, go. And Jesus, surrounded like a rascal by 100 soldiers, passes through the town again, and once more he meets Judas Iscariot, whom he had already met near a market. I forgot to mention this before, disgusted as I was with the brawl of the populace, the same merciful glance at the traitor. It is now more difficult to strike him with kicks and clubs, but there is no shortage of stones and rubbish, and, if the stones hit the Roman helmets and armor, resounding without injuries, they do leave marks when they hit Jesus, who is proceeding with only his tunic on, as he left his mantle at Gethsemane. When entering Herod's sumptuous palace, he sees Chusa, who cannot look at him, and runs away not to see him in that state, covering his head with his mantle. He is now in the hall in front of Herod, and behind him there are the scribes and Pharisees, who feel at their ease here, and who come in to make their false charges. Only the centurion and 4 soldiers escort him towards the Tetrarch. Herod descends from his seat and walks around Jesus while listening to the accusations of his enemies, and he smiles and flouts. He then feigns compassion and respect, which do not upset the martyr, as his raillery did not perturb him. You are great, I know. I inquired about you, and I was pleased that Chusa was your friend, and Manaen your disciple. The worries of the state, but how anxious I was to say that you are great, to ask you to forgive me. John's eyes, his voice accuse me, and are always before me. You are the saint who cancels the sin of the world. Absolve me, O Christ. Jesus is silent. I heard that they accuse you of rebelling against Rome. Are you not the promised rod to strike Assur? Jesus is silent. They told me that you predict the end of the temple and of Jerusalem. But is the temple not eternal as a spirit, since it was wanted by God who is eternal? Jesus is silent. Are you mad? Have you lost your power? Is Satan preventing you from speaking? Has he abandoned you? Herod is laughing now. He then gives an order, and some servants rush in carrying a greyhound which has a broken leg and is yelping sorrowfully, and a stable-man who is dull-witted, with a big empty head, a slavering mouth, an abortion, the laughing-stock of the servants. The scribes and priests run away, shouting at the sacrilege when they see the stretcher of the dog. Herod, false and mocking, explains, it's Herodias' pet, a gift of Rome. It broke its leg yesterday, and she is weeping. Order it to be cured. Work a miracle. Jesus looks at him severely, and is silent. Have I offended you? This one, then, he is a man, although he is little more than a wild beast. Give him intelligence, since you are the intelligence of the Father. Is that not what you say? And he laughs offensively. Another, more severe glance of Jesus, who is still silent. This man is too obstinate, and now is stunned by scorn. Bring wine and women here, and untie him. They untie his hands, and while a large number of servants bring amphorae and cups, some dancers come in, covered with nothing. A many-colored linen fringe is the only garment girding their thin waists and hips, nothing else. As they are Africans, they are of bronze complexion, and are as agile as young gazelles, and they begin a silent, lascivious dance. Jesus refuses the cups and closes his eyes without speaking. Herod's courtiers laugh at his disdain. Take the woman you wish. Live! Learn how to live, suggests Herod. Jesus seems a statue, with folded arms, closed eyes. He does not stir, even when the lewd dancers touch him gently with their nude bodies. Enough! I treated you as a god, and you do not act as a god. I treated you as a man, and you have not acted as a man. You are mad. A white garment, clothe him with it, so that Pontius Pilate may know that the Tetrarch took his subject to be mad. Centurion, please tell the proconsul that Herod humbly presents his respects to him and venerates Rome. Go. And Jesus, tied once again, goes out with a linen tunic reaching down to his knees on top of his red woolen garment, and they go back to Pilate. Now, when the sentry with difficulty squeezed through the crowd, which did not get tired waiting in front of the proconsular building, and it is strange to see so many people in that place and its neighborhood, while the rest of the town seems to be empty. Jesus sees the shepherds in a group, and they are all there. That is, Isaac, Jonathan, Levi, Joseph, Elias, Matthias, John, Simeon, Benjamin, and Daniel, together with a small group of Galileans, among whom I recognize Alphaeus and Joseph of Alphaeus, with two or more whom I do not know, but judging by their hairstyle, I should say that they are Judeans. And farther away he sees John, who has slipped into the hall, half hidden behind a column, with a Roman who I think is a servant. He smiles at this one and at those, his friends. But what are these few people, and Johanna, and Manaen, and Chuza in the middle of an ocean, boiling with hatred? The centurion salutes Pontius Pilate and reports, "Here again? Phew! Cursed be this race! Make the mob come forward and bring the accused here. Oh, what a nuisance!" He goes towards the crowd, stopping again in the middle of the hall. "Jews, listen! You have brought me this man as an instigator of the people. I have examined him in your presence, and I have not found in him any of the crimes of which you accuse him. Herod did not find more than I did, and he has sent him back to us. He does not deserve death. Rome has spoken. But in order not to displease you, depriving you of the amusement, I will give you Barabbas, and I will order him to be given 40 lashes. That is enough." "No, no, not Barabbas, not Barabbas. Death to Jesus, and a dreadful death. Release Barabbas, and condemn the Nazarene to death." "But listen, I said I will have him lashed. Is that not enough? I will have him scourged. I will have him scourged then. It is terrible, you know. He may die through it. What wrong has he done? I can find no fault in him, and I will set him free." "Crucify him! Crucify him! Death to him! You are the protector of criminals! Heathen! You are Satan too!" The crowd advances, and the first formation of soldiers wavers, as they cannot make use of their lances. But the second line, descending one step, swing their lances and free their companions. "Let him be scourged!" Pilate orders a centurion. "How many blows?" "As many as you like. In any case, the matter is over, and I am bored. Go." Jesus is led by 4 soldiers to the courtyard beyond the hall. In the middle of the courtyard, which is all paved with colored marbles, there is a high column like the one in the porch. At about 3 meters from the floor, it has an iron bar protruding at least a meter, and ending with a ring, to which Jesus is tied with his hands joined above his head. After he has been undressed, he has on only short linen drawers and sandals. His hands, tied at his wrists, are raised up as far as the ring, so that, although tall, he rests only on the tips of his toes on the floor. And even that position is a torture. I have read, I do not know where, that the column was low and that Jesus was bent over. That may be. I say what I see. Behind him stands one who looks like an executioner, with a clear Jewish profile in front of him. Another man looking like the previous one. They are armed with scourges made of 7 leather strips tied to a handle and ending with small lead hammers. They begin to strike him rhythmically, as if they were practicing, one in front and one behind, so that Jesus' trunk is in a whirl of lashes and scourges. The 4 soldiers to whom he has been handed are indifferent, and are playing dice with the other 3 soldiers who have just arrived, and the voices of the players follow the rhythm of the sound of the scourges, which hiss like snakes, and then resound like stones striking the stretched skin of a drum. They beat the poor body, which is so slender and as white as old ivory, and then becomes covered with stripes that at first are a brighter and brighter pink shade, then violet, then it displays blue swellings full of blood, then the skin breaks, letting blood flow from all sides. They redouble their cruelty on his thorax and abdomen, but there is no shortage of blows given to his legs, arms, and even to his head, so that no fragment of his skin may be left without pain. And not a moan. If he were not held up by the ropes, he would fall, but he does not fall, and does not groan. Only his head hangs over his chest after so many blows, as if he had fainted. "Hey, stop! He must be alive when he is killed," shouts the shoulder scoffingly. The 2 executioners stop and wipe their perspiration. "We are exhausted," they say. "Give us our pay so that we may have a refreshing drink." "I would give you the gallows, but here you are," and the decurion throws a large coin to each executioner. "You have done a good job. He looks like a mosaic. Titus, do you mean that this man was really Alexander's love? We must let him know so that he may mourn over his death. Let us untie him." They untie him, and Jesus falls on the floor like a dead body. They leave him there, pushing him now and again with their feet shod with caligulae to see whether he moans. But he is silent. Is he dead? Is it possible? He is a young man and a handicraftsman, so I am told, and he looks like a delicate lady. I will take care of him, says a soldier, and he sits him with his back against the column. Clots of blood appear where he was. He then goes towards a fountain gurgling under the porch. He fills the tub with water and pours it on Jesus' head and body. That's it. Water is good for flowers. Jesus drops a deep sigh and tries to stand up, but his eyes are still closed. Oh, good. Come on, darling. Your dame is waiting for you. But Jesus in vain presses his hands against the floor, trying to stand up. Come on, quick. Are you weak? Here's some refreshment, says another soldier sneeringly, and with the shaft of his halberd he delivers a blow to Jesus' face, striking it between the right cheek and the nose, that begins to bleed. Jesus opens his eyes and looks round. His eyes are veiled. He stares at the soldier who struck him, wipes the blood with his hand, and then, with much effort, he stands up. Get dressed. It is immodest to stay like that, you lewd man. They all laugh, standing around him. And he obeys without speaking. But when he bends, and he alone knows how much he suffers when stooping to the ground, contused as he is, as his wounds open even more when the skin is stretched, and more are formed as the blisters burst, a soldier gives a kick to his garments, and scatters them, and every time Jesus reaches them, staggering to where they lie, a soldier pushes them away, or throws them in a different direction, and Jesus, suffering bitterly, goes after them without uttering a word, while the soldiers deride him obscenely. He can dress himself again at last, and he can put on also the white tunic which was left in a corner and is still clean. He seems to wish to conceal his poor red garment, which only yesterday was so beautiful, and now is filthy with rubbish and stained with the blood sweated at Gethsemane. Furthermore, before putting on his short vest, he dries his wet face with it, cleaning it of dust and spittle, and the poor holy face looks clean, marked only by bruises and small cuts, and he tidies his hair, which is hanging ruffled, and his beard out of an inborn need to be personally tidy. Then he squats in the sunshine, because my Jesus is shivering. Fever begins to torture him with its cold shivers, and he feels weak because of the blood he has lost, of fasting and walking so much. They tie his hands once again, and the rope begins to cut into his wrists, here where the excoriated skin has left a mark like a red bracelet. And now, what shall we do with him? I'm bored. Wait, the Jews want a king. Now we will give them one, says a soldier, and he runs out to a court that is in the back, from which he comes back with a bunch of branches of wild hawthorn, still flexible, because springtime keeps the branches relatively tender, whilst the long, sharp thorns are hard. With a dagger they remove leaves and buds, they bend the branches forming a circle, and they place them on his poor head. But the cruel crown falls down on his neck. It does not fit. Make it narrower. Take it off. They take it off and scratch his cheeks, risking to blind him, and they tear off his hair in doing so. They make it smaller. Now it is too small, and although they press it down, driving the thorns into his head, it threatens to fall. They take it off once again, tearing more of his hair. They adjust it again. It now fits. At the front there are 3 thorny cords. At the back, where the end of the 3 branches interweave, there is a real knot of thorns that penetrate into the nape of his neck. Do you see how well you look? Natural bronze and real rubies. Look at yourself, O king. In my Kyrios, says the inventor of the torture scoffingly. A crown is not sufficient to make a king. Purple and scepter are required. In the stable there is a cane, and in the sewer there is a red chlamys. Get them, Cornelius. And once they have them, they put the dirty red rag on Jesus' shoulders, and before putting the cane in his hands, they beat his head with it, bowing and greeting, Hail, King of the Jews! And they roar with laughter. Jesus does not react. He lets them sit him on the throne, a tub turned upside down, certainly used to water horses. He lets them strike and scoff at him without ever uttering a word. He only looks at them, casting glances of such kindness and such atrocious sorrow that I cannot bear them without feeling heartbroken. The soldiers stop sneering at him only when the harsh voice of the superior orders them to take the guilty prisoner to Pilate. Guilty? Of what? Jesus is taken back again to the entrance hall, which is now covered with a precious velarium because of the sun. he still has the crown, the chlamys, and the cane. Come forward, that I may show you to the people. Jesus, although exhausted, straightens himself up with dignity. Oh, he really is a king. Listen, Jews, here is the man. I have punished him, but now let him go. No, no, we want to see him. Out, that we may see the blasphemer. Bring him out, and make sure they do not take him. And as Jesus goes out into the lobby and is visible in the square formed by the soldiers, Pontius Pilate points to him with his hand, saying, Here is the man, your king. Is that still not sufficient? The sun in a sultry day is shining almost perpendicular, because it is between the 3rd and the 6th hour, and it lights up and makes eyes and faces conspicuous. Are those people human beings? No, they are rabid hyenas. They shout, they shake their fists, they want his death. Jesus is holding himself upright, and I assure you that he never had such a noble bearing as now, not even when he performed the most wonderful miracles. Nobility of sorrow, but so divine as to suffice to mark him with the name of God. But in order to say that name, it is necessary to be at least man, and Jerusalem has no men today, but only demons.